Welcome back to our two-part episode of Beanbag TV where the subject is aliens. On the last episode, we talked about how aliens on some level exist. Now, whether that's because they actually exist, because they're the result of some sort of disorder, or because the victim has watched one too many James Franco movies, we're not really sure.
First of all, we want to talk about why alien abductions, although a very real experience, are not actually about aliens from another world, or at least not aliens in the way we depict them to be. Let's examine some of the evidence.
This agency that was investigating this stuff had somehow tried to establish communication, had opened some sort of a door, a portal, a window, and that things came in and that shouldn't have come in.
Had physical form, although they could manifest physically in some respects that the group believed. So in other words, the idea was that this portal was opened. Now, by portal, in simplistic terms, we're talking about a gateway to another realm that some people would quite possibly correctly, would suggest was like another dimension.
In the common alien paradigm, there's an inconsistency between the type of technology they use to move around and the type of technology they use to perform their medical experiments. People have reported that their ships are able to move from point A to point B with little to no effort, that they're able to communicate telepathically, move about interdimensionally, time travel, and beam people aboard their ships. However, when it comes to their medical experiments, they still resort to prodding people with needles and drills and dissecting in barbaric manners.
Abductions tend to happen in the cloak of night, almost deceptively. If their technology is so vastly superior to that of our own, why all the secrecy?
For as many times as they've supposedly visited the Earth, there's not been one instance where they've been successfully documented or photographed. There's clues, but there's no proof.
They've been known to be manipulative, controlling of people, fear-inducing, retaliating when discovered, hypnotizing, interacting on a soul level, claiming to be a religious leader, traumatizing, disregarding, and attempting to control one's own free will. To be frank, it all seems fairly pointless to travel all those light years just to get to our planet.
So that leaves us with the responsibility of figuring out what's causing abductions to happen. The three most common medical explanations are 1. Sleep paralysis, 2. A DMT release, and 3. Dissociative amnesia.
According to Wikipedia, sleep paralysis is defined as a phenomenon in which an individual, either during falling asleep or awakening, temporarily experiences an inability to move, speak, or react. It is a transitional state between wakefulness and sleep. It is characterized by an inability to move muscles. Also, according to Wikipedia, Kim Jong-il's titles include Party Center and the Great Son of Life.
Sleep paralysis, to those who haven't experienced it, is extremely terrifying. But as vivid a hallucination as you can get from sleep paralysis, there are still abduction story items that are left unaccounted for.
Often victims of abductions allegedly have scoop marks, triangles, cuts, etc. on their bodies post-experience. Abductees have been known to suffer from an illness they did not have prior to their abductions.
Many of you reported, even when we sent out the survey a few weeks ago, seeing aliens in broad daylight when you were not asleep or paralyzed. In addition to that, of the 65 people who took our alien abductee survey, 35.4% said it was not relegated to times when they were asleep. That is freaking terrifying. In addition to that, in last week's episode, there was an incident of a person who got abducted out of their car with friends.
Sometimes multiple people see the exact same thing. In one instance, a family exhibited some of the symptoms of sleep paralysis, but all saw exactly the same thing.
Joyce Aarons and her family believe that what happened to them was not an isolated incident. Abduction researchers believe these abductions happen generation after generation, as this family from West Plains, Missouri can attest.
I remember just lying there, trying to relax. I'd opened my eyes, I seen a red light flowing across the ceiling, which it almost looked like the Aurora Borealis.
Dan and Joyce Aarons say the room was dark except for the unusual light, which they describe as about 4 or 5 feet in diameter. They say it hovered over the baby's crib at the foot of their bed where their 1-year-old daughter Heather slept. Dan says that when he tried to get up, he found himself immobilized. Skeptics would say that Dan, Joyce, and Heather could have constructed their stories together before hypnosis.
But then they'd have to know how to answer the trick questions and the leading suggestions, which I provide. Plus, there are many details they wouldn't know about that we would be looking for as markers for truthfulness and reliability with other abduction data.
Obviously, sleep paralysis could not be the cause here. The video starts off explaining something that appears to be sleep paralysis. But what you have to ask yourself is how two people can hallucinate the exact same experience. Then relate the whole thing under hypnosis independently of one another.
Next, we're going to talk about DMT, a powerful hallucinogen your brain naturally secretes.
Dr. Rick Strassman, author of DMT, the Spirit Molecule, hypothesizes that alien abductions are brought on by the accidental release of DMT, dimethyltryptamine, produced by the pineal gland inside the brain. While conducting DMT research in the 1990s at the University of New Mexico, Dr. Strassman advanced the theory that a massive release of DMT from the pineal gland prior to death or near death was the cause of the near-death experience NDE phenomenon. Several of his test subjects reported NDE-like audio or visual hallucinations, while others also reported contact with other beings, alien-like, insectoid or reptilian in nature, in highly advanced technological environments where the subjects were carried, probed, tested, manipulated, dismembered, taught, loved, and even raped by these beings. It is interesting to note how similar the accounts of his test subjects, who were administered DMT intravenously, are in comparison to what can be found in abduction research.
While DMT is a plausible explanation for the alien abduction phenomenon, there are still many unanswered questions. For instance, how can multiple people in the same room hallucinate the exact same thing completely independently of each other? Remember last time how we talked about in Zimbabwe an entire school of children and faculty saw an alien together?
Additionally, this does not explain the scoop marks, incisions, severe bruising, scratches, etc. that often accompany an alien abduction.
Lastly is dissociative amnesia, which is essentially amnesia associated with a traumatizing event. While this may explain instances of lost or missing time, it is insufficient to explain the entire alien abduction process.
MIT psychologists reported in their over 200 cases of alien abductions that the victims were not experiencing psychological problems, which gives further credence to the idea that alien abductions are not mere psychological problems.
Alien Discussions, Proceedings of the Abduction Study Conference held at MIT in Cambridge, Massachusetts. You can see it's quite huge. It's chock full of abductee stories and psychological papers presented by the invited professionals. This is the Massachusetts Institute of Technology has taken this topic seriously enough to host a conference by top psychological professionals on the field. And it turns out that the group determined that the alien abduction reports could not be blamed on mental health issues. They wanted to see if it was a sickness and if they could cure it. There's nothing they could find in the entire field of psychology ever documented that would explain what these people is reporting that was a sickness that they could cure or help with.
At Beanbag TV, we submit that the alien abduction phenomenon is caused primarily by religious and spiritual reasons, and find this explanation to be the most valid. And here's why. What turned us on to religion being the explanation behind this is a survey that we sent out a few weeks ago, which, by the way, 65 people filled out. In the survey, we asked people what religion they were and how active they were in their religion. The results were astounding. A whopping 7.7% considered themselves active Christians, while 40% considered themselves atheist or agnostic.
The alien paradigm makes more sense this way as well. Think about it. What do aliens thrive off of? Fear. Most reported aliens as being interdimensional beings as opposed to coming from the stars. Also interesting to note, they achieve their goals through deception.
They often bring with them a religious message which is contrary to the God-fearing teachings we have here. In fact, almost all alien abduction experiences have some sort of New Age teaching.
One of the primary motivations for the exploration of the New World was to convert the inhabitants to Christianity. Can we exclude the possibility of an extraterrestrial evangelism?
Many abductees report excessive behavior such as sexual promiscuity, alcoholism, overeating, and destructiveness to relationships, much the same way as someone who distanced themselves from the Spirit of God.
Missing time. Individuals reported missing time and unexplained scarring, much the same as a possessed individual.
There have been documented cases where people have stopped alien abductions from occurring by invoking the name of Christ. Here are just a few.
Most of the researchers in the realm have said it wasn't possible to stop an experience. Knowing that, I called some of the leading researchers in the country. So I said, guys, I've got a very unusual case here. This man, we'll use the name Bill, and during his experience, in fear, he calls out, Jesus, 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 or Jesus, please help me. By calling out, he abruptly stops his abduction experience. These entities can be stopped in the name and authority of Jesus Christ.
The following is an excerpt taken directly from the transcript of Mr. D's interview. I thought I was having a satanic experience, that the devil had gotten a hold of me and had shoved a pole up my rectum and was holding me up in the air. So helpless, I couldn't do anything. I said, Jesus, Jesus, help me, or Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. When I did, there was a feeling or a sound or something that either my words that I had thought or the words that I had tried to say or whatever had hurt whatever was holding me up in the air on this pole. And I felt like it was withdrawn and I fell. I hit the bed because it was like I was thrown back in bed. I really can't tell, but when I did, my wife woke up and asked why I was jumping on the bed.
It might also be worth mentioning that there is a reason that this information has not been more highly publicized.
These guys shared with me, the ones that I talked to by phone, that they too had come across cases like this. And I said, really? I said, all we hear is you cannot stop this experience. But yet you're telling me you also have come across people who have been able to stop this experience and in that manner? And they said, yes, we have. Well, my next question is how come you don't share this? Why isn't this being shared? If you have documented cases like the one I just came across, why isn't this being shared? One of two answers, or both answers, came out of each of the researchers' mouths that I talked to, off the record. First thing out of their mouth was, we really didn't know what to make of it. I'm fine with that. I didn't know what to make of it. But the problem is when they brought up the second answer. We really didn't want to go there because it might affect our credibility in the realm.
Well, that's all we have time for our show today. But the great thing is we have a brand new ebook called What Are Aliens Anyway? and it's available to you on our website, beanbagtelevision.com. And we go in depth in this book about alien abductions and what's really going on, and be able to answer some questions that we weren't able to answer on the show. And the best part about this is it's absolutely free of cost.
And if you're interested in reading the survey information that I collected for this episode and for the last one, that is also available on our website. Both of those are in the links below, so go ahead and click on them if you're interested.
And that's our show for today. We hope you enjoyed it. And if you go down below in the comment section, just state what topics you are wanting us to research.
And hit like and subscribe.
So thanks again, and we'll see you next week. Have a great one.